Right now, you are most likely alone in a room, or you can go to one whenever you want. You have a door, you have walls, you have personal space. For 99% of human history, none of this existed. There were no doors, no walls, no private rooms. You slept in a pile of 20 people an arm's length away from each other. You ate with them. You went to the bathroom 10 meters from them. You fell in love, fought, made love, all of it under the eyes of the entire tribe. And here is the main question. How did they survive that? How did a young couple in a Stone Age shelter find a moment to themselves when 15 other people were sleeping next to them? How did they not lose their minds? The answer turns out to be one of the most surprising things in human anthropology, and it explains why you, sitting alone right now in your closed room, are probably more lonely than any ancient human ever was. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers are shocking. In 1992, evolutionary anthropologist Robin Dunbar from Oxford published a landmark study analyzing the brain sizes of primates and the size of the social groups they could maintain. His conclusion gave us what is now called Dunbar's number. The natural size of a human group is around 150 people, but that's the maximum. The core unit, the people you actually lived with every day, was smaller, between 15 and 50 individuals. These were not just relatives, they were the entire physical world around you, from the moment you were born until the moment you died. You were never more than a few meters away from another human being. Never. Not once. There were no walls. Hunter-gatherer camps had no separate rooms. Archaeological evidence from the site of Ohalo II in Israel, excavated by Danny Nadel from the University of Haifa in 2004, shows that 23,000 years ago, an entire family shelter was about 4 meters across. Small enough that everyone slept touching each other. Big enough only to lie down in. If you needed to have a conversation, everyone heard it. If you were angry, everyone knew about it. And if you and your partner needed time alone, everyone knew about that too. So, how did couples manage? Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have found 3 consistent patterns, 3 strategies that ancient humans used to create privacy without walls. The first strategy is timing. The most intimate moments happened at night, when it was dark and people were asleep, or pretending to be asleep. Darkness provided a kind of psychological privacy, even though physical privacy did not exist. You could not be seen, even if you could be heard. And what you cannot see, your brain politely chooses to ignore. The second strategy is distance. Couples would walk away from camp. Not far, because leaving the firelight meant predators, wolves, hyenas, big cats, but far enough that they were not directly next to everyone else. 50 feet in the darkness is essentially invisibility. You could still see the fire. The fire could still protect you, but you were alone. The third strategy is the most important: social agreement. Everyone pretended not to notice. Think of it this way. You are on a small camping trip with your family. Someone needs to change clothes inside the tent. You don't stare. You look away. You give them psychological space, even though physical space doesn't exist. That's exactly what ancient humans did, on a much larger scale. They developed unwritten social rules about privacy. You don't acknowledge certain things, even though you know about them. You don't watch. You don't follow. You don't comment. This was the real architecture of privacy. Not stone walls, not wooden doors. A wall built out of shared silence. But here is where the story becomes truly strange. In 1961, anthropologist Colin Turnbull from the American Museum of Natural History published a book called The Forest People. Turnbull had spent 3 years living with the Mbuti, a hunter-gatherer people in the Ituri rainforest of Central Africa. He noticed something that none of his colleagues had emphasized before. The Mbuti had no word for privacy. Not because they were primitive, because the idea of needing to be alone was foreign to them. Being alone meant being vulnerable. It meant being separated from the protection of the group. It meant something had gone terribly wrong. For most of human history, solitude was not a luxury. It was a death sentence. If you were alone, you were either lost, exiled, or about to die. And the Mbuti are not unusual. The same pattern shows up across other hunter-gatherer societies. The Hadza in Tanzania, the Aka in the Central African Republic, the San in the Kalahari. Different continents, different languages, different ecologies. The same finding: the need to be alone. The way modern people experience it is not a basic human trait. It is a cultural invention. So when did privacy actually become important? The answer is Agriculture. About 10,000 years ago, humans in the Fertile Crescent started planting seeds and domesticating animals. Farming meant staying in one place. Staying in one place meant building permanent structures, and permanent structures meant walls. For the first time in human history, you could close a door. You could have a room that other people could not see into. But even then, privacy was a luxury. Only the wealthy had separate bedrooms. Most people still lived in single-room homes with their entire family for thousands of years. In 1986, architectural historian Witold Rybczynski published a book called Home, A Short History of an Idea. In it, he showed that the modern concept of a private bedroom, a room where one person sleeps alone with a door that closes, did not become normal until the 1700s in Europe. Children having their own bedrooms is shockingly recent. It only became standard in middle-class homes in the 1900s, about 100 years ago. 290,000 years of humans sleeping together, 100 years of sleeping alone. Here is what is hard for modern people to understand. Ancient humans probably did not want privacy the way we do. In 1941, psychologist Erich Fromm wrote a book called Escape from Freedom. His argument was that the need for privacy is a symptom of individualism. In societies where your identity is tied to the group, to your tribe, your family, your role, being alone is not peaceful. It is terrifying. It means you have been cut off from the thing that gives your life meaning. For ancient humans, the group was everything. Your survival depended on other people. Your identity was your role in the tribe. Being alone was not peaceful. It was horror. Today, we have the opposite problem. We are so isolated that loneliness has become an epidemic. In 2015, psychologist Julianne Holt-Lunstad from Brigham Young University published a meta-analysis in Perspectives on Psychological Science. Her finding was stark. Chronic loneliness increases the risk of early death by 26%. That is roughly equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We wanted privacy, we got it, and it is killing us. So here is the answer to the question we started with. Ancient humans had privacy through social agreement, not physical separation. They created invisible boundaries using time, distance, and mutual pretending. They did not need to be alone because their sense of self was different from ours. They were not individuals first. They were a group first, and individuals second. And when agriculture gave us walls, we slowly created the world we live in now. A world where you can close a door and be completely alone, where you can spend days without seeing another person, where privacy is so common that we have forgotten what it costs. For 290,000 years, humans were never alone. Then we invented walls, and we have been lonely ever since. The next time you close your door for the night, remember, your ancestor, 20,000 years ago, in a shelter in Siberia, fell asleep surrounded by 15 people he had known his entire life. Their breathing kept him warm. Their presence kept him safe. He did not need a door. He did not need a wall. He had something better. He had them. And we traded that for silence.